Welcome back, everyone, to round 2 of the AGE June Open Draft. I'm joined here with Bryce.
Good to
My
see you,
name is
Michael. Yeah, glad to be here for what is going to be the second pod of 3 that we're going to be broadcasting today. We saw Chris Aioli take it down with one of the most cracked Zen draft decks I think I've ever seen.
It was good.
And this time, who are we going to be following, Michael?
I think we are going to be following Fuzzy Delp. For those of you who don't remember him, he's been playing a lot of Ninja recently, did quite well at some of our AGE Opens in the past, and is currently 3-0 in the top pod, along with a few other names, Chris Aioli, Andrew Rudin, and who's on his left again?
Zachary Wallach.
Zachary Wallach. Just a couple names of the 8 that will be joining us shortly.
And without any further ado, let's get into the action. Here we are, taking a look at Fuzzy's hand. For those that don't know, Fuzzy is one of the 3 hosts of the Pitch It To Me podcast, where they talk about the ebbs and flows in the metagame of Flesh and Blood. Fuzzy is also just an all-around really awesome person. I think I got into the game at a similar time that he did, so you form a kinship with the people that start the game at the same time as you. So I'm really happy to see that he's doing well, and really excited to see how he drafts. He ended up with a 0 Transcend card new list that he 3-0'd with. So he was pretty ecstatic when he
goes to show that is not a necessary piece of the puzzle to do well with new. And per our predictions earlier, 2 to 3 was the recommended amount. 0 is also an option.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Absolutely. So Fuzzy's looking at a pretty interesting pack here. Namely, there's just not a lot of good cards in it.
Yeah.
And the only good ones are in the same class. So Fuzzy has an interesting situation here. He can take one of these really good class cards, as he will, Flex Claws, but he's going to be passing a red Biting Breeze, which could create another ninja on his left.
Yeah, decides to go with the 3 of in that slot. So not sending strong signals, but definitely picking a strong card.
Yeah, absolutely. Waiting the next pack here. Fuzzy making the decision nice and quick. All right, pack 2. Let's see if we can figure out what has been taken.
I saw 2 assassin, 3 assassin. So assassin is very open.
Critically, those are both in the rare and foil slots, though.
Good point.
So we have no signal sent for assassin. A lot of assassin cards in this pack.
Yep.
Even the non-foil rare slot is assassin.
And I do see 2 ninja cards as well.
And 2 illusionist cards.
Okay.
Do we have a piece of equipment? I don't think I've seen one yet. It's possible that was... I don't see a piece of equipment, so I think it was a common equipment that was taken. Looks like Fuzzy's committing early to ninja.
Yeah, he wants to keep sending those I'm on ninja signals down the chain. So here he will pass a 1 ninja pack over, and hopefully the message will be received loud and clear that you need to stay out of that lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And looks like he might get rewarded. I saw a red pouncing chi.
Yep, an easy snap pick for him. Just going through one more time to look at what's available. And he's really drying up the ninja picks to everyone on his left.
Yeah, could be in a really good spot here. One thing we didn't mention during our last pod was that we had a player, Tao, who was opting to go for this relatively new archetype for Part the Mistfell, where you pretty much just take all of those water mystic attacks and good generics for the first pack or pack and a half before you actually choose a lane, which is why to Sam and I, it kind of looked like both Illusionist and Assassin were pretty open. When in reality, there was just somebody doing something very different.
Yeah.
And Tao did very well. I believe he went 2-1 in his pod.
What was he playing?
He was on new.
Awesome.
Which, as we discussed earlier...
Was it blue new?
Yeah. Staying open is not... It skews you towards one class more than the other, right? And new is that for Part the Mistfell. Let's see what we got.
We have a lot of ninja cards once again. It looks like that's very open still from what we've seen.
However, you know what I don't see?
What's that?
A lot of ninja commons. Probably means that Fuzzy does have a ninja or 2 on his right. Now, he can take pieces out of the rare slot, but he's going to have competition.
The Flex Claws is common, correct? Or, sorry, is that a Breed Anger?
I believe Breed Anger is rare. Maybe I'm mistaken.
We're about to see in just a second.
No, I think I'm mistaken. I think you're right. It is a common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if this was a 2 ninja pack, then he has 1 ninja on his right. If it was a 3 ninja pack, then he likely has 2, or somebody who's unsure and waffling a bit.
And here comes Pouncing Key.
Yep. Again,
Also
2
has
ninja cards that are commons here.
Yeah, absolutely. He has an okay pickup in the blue on the Biting Breeze, but that might be something he wants to let wheel.
Yep.
He
Going
decides
for
that
the fact-finding mission.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe deciding that yellow Pouncing Key is not quite powerful enough of a pick early on.
Interestingly, one of the things that we talked about was how the 2-cost cards are a little bit less powerful in Zen due to the way the cost curve goes. So, still a strong card, but as a 2-block, one of the weaker options.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the second red Nimblism we've seen, if I'm not mistaken. Could be very powerful depending on how many of those Nimble Strikes are flying around.
Looks like he just wants to get those big attacks into his deck right now.
Battlefront Bastion being one of the most versatile cards in the set, in that it is often used on defense to great value.
Very powerful blocking card, especially against Zen and New with those breakpoints.
A foil Shifting Winds. If Fuzzy's giving a little smirk, he's wondering if he should be money drafting at this time.
Wow,
Yeah,
and he
there
takes
goes.
it.
Arguably, yellow Pouncing Chi, even though it is not a red, I would say that's probably a better pick than the Shifting Winds. But, what do I know? Maybe Fuzzy's going to be naming... I feel like the only thing you name in this set is Crouching Tiger.
Sure.
If you get it off.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other options.
Looks like... Yeah, looks like... So we still have our Ninja Commons, but they're not great picks.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out that Shifting Winds is a 3-block.
It is.
So it's a 3-block blue. Maybe he values it for that reason in addition to the price tag.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is super reasonable. An Evasive Leap to shore up your new matchup.
Yeah, that can be really critical to prevent the on-hits from New, putting that in the arsenal, giving yourself some breathing room.
And critically does not get banished by her hero ability and give her things like life gain. Fuzzy's got an interesting decision here. There are a lot of good blues there, but he goes for the Aqua Seeing Shell.
Filling out the equipment. I'd noticed a lot of illusionist cards in that pack. I don't know if they were the best quality, but possibly a either lower or open illusionist table.
It is interesting because he does have Zachary Wallach on one side to him. I think Fuzzy is passing to Zach, though, and Zach is well known as an Enigma Forcer in this set. Does not matter what he opens, he is forcing an Enigma every single time, and he does it to great effect.
Yeah.
Sometimes to an annoying degree in my experience, because if I tried a similar strategy, I end up with the most dog deck I think I've ever seen. Cool. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Taking that nice blue card that can be played out for a red's worth of value.
So Fuzzy's shaken out with a deck that is, it seems like it's being okay. Currently not telegraphing the power level that we saw from Chris last round, but that could all change because we thought he was a little doomed at the end of Pack 1. Perhaps we'll see more people pivot out of Zen at this point.
Choosing the blue Nimblism there. I actually really like this card as a blocking card. Just put it in your graveyard. It's a blue, it pitches. And if you do end up finding the Nimble Strike, it's there. It's ready to be banished.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Zen loves to say 4/4/4, why not mix in a 5, you know? So as far as what's interesting about this deck shaping up so far versus Chris's deck is that Fuzzy has already secured some powerful combo cards. He doesn't, however, have any Chi cards. So it'll be interesting if his game plan actually hedges on transcending and activating Zen's ability or not.
Yeah, we did see some very good uses of Transcend from Chris Ayali. Notably, the Chi cards can be the best card in your deck, and so it's very useful to have a couple, but not critical. You can absolutely build a strong, and look at this, 2 powerful illusionist cards coming up in the final 2 picks.
Okay. Dusty. Fuzzy has found a blue on the wheel to kind of round out his curve. It's kind of a lackluster blue at that, but sometimes it's just nice to not have to worry about filling all your blue slots. Yeah, let's take a look as he's kind of thumbing through his cards. He's got 1 equipment slot filled at the moment, no transcend cards. He's got 5 reds, only 3 of which are ninja attacks. 1 is the evasive leap, and 1 is the fact-finding mission. How are you feeling if you're sitting in Fuzzy's seat right now?
I think it's middle of the road. I think you're really happy to have the flex clause, the pouncing chi, the breed anger's okay, but then it falls off pretty quick. I think he's really hoping to get some more of those power reds, and depending on how many people to his left are on ninja, he may struggle to do that in pack 2.
Yeah, absolutely. He's also looking at looks like one really dead card in his pool so far. We've got Essence of Ancestry Soul. Honestly, based on all of the packs, I think that actually worked out for him. Considering how many illusionist cards we were seeing towards the end there, it really could have been bad.
Yeah.
And burned a hole in his sideboard. But I think he's feeling okay.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing about this pod isn't so much his deck quality, but the quality of the other illusionists if they continue to have their take of whatever they want. Seeing an Untamed early is really good for him, though. Being able to pick a powerful ninja attack is kind of what his deck is lacking if he decides to go that route. There's also a chi card that he looks like he was hovering, but Untamed, it's got to be that.
In fact, it is the best.
Faking us with the evasive leap blue for a moment.
The best possible cheat card, I think, for Zen. So I don't think we would have been upset at Fuzzy for taking that. But Red Untamed, just a really solid choice.
Yeah.
And furthermore, he has the opportunity to wheel that blue Pouncing Chi, perhaps even 2 with this pack, and find something that'll be useful to him on the back end.
Yeah. This already looks like he's low. He's low. There's no good ninja cards. I'll just say that. There's blues he could take if he wants to. This one is nice. I think it's a block 3, so he goes for that. A little surprised to see him go for that over the transcend card, but perhaps he just doesn't want any no blocks.
Maybe he's thinking I won already without transcend cards, and I'm going to do it again. This pack, however, is going to pose a very interesting question to Fuzzy, because we've got the best in slot foot piece. Yeah, he's not even going to think about it.
Snap pick. What were you considering?
The only other consideration is the preserve tradition.
Sure.
Right.
And with the way that he played last round, it sounds like he values those a lot lower than other players, and so made his choice very easy. Stride of Reprisal, best in slot. Very good pickup for him here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's pausing to admire the foil Waxing Spectre real quick.
Yeah.
I respect that. This pack, again, is a little bit lackluster. Aspect of Tiger Mind might not be so bad, especially in the late stages of the game.
Yeah, one thing that I think is interesting about the choice of going with no transcend cards is that actually lowers the power level of all of your, blues that you'd want to play. So he's really valuing that block 3 on the bottom right there, and Breed Anger does exactly that.
Right, you are, and Breed Anger is definitely not a card that you will be wanting to search for with that hero ability anyway.
And there's another one in red.
The red Breed Anger, however, that might be something interesting. This could also be a good opportunity to pick up a piece of equipment, but he's liking the Breed Anger.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 equipment slots filled. We've got the feet, and we've got the head.
Good start.
Yeah.
And he's got the best feet that you could ask for, so.
Exactly. So we're feeling pretty good there. We've got a good smattering of combo cards. Hello, Emissary of Wind.
Yep, that caught my eye immediately.
This is a card that I think the fact that it made it through this far in the pack is pretty interesting. This is interesting, too, because now Zachary Wallach should be passing to Fuzzy at this point, if I'm not mistaken.
And you see that Waning Vengeance on top of the Moon Chakra, both pretty strong.
With a foil Waning Vengeance on the right. So I am probably close to 127% certain that Zachary Wallach is on Illusionist. So he must have taken a pretty big bomb
Yeah.
out of this pack, and if he's passing those up.
And I'd be curious to keep my eye on this pack and see if more Illusionist cards wheel back, indicating that Zach is getting his pick of the litter.
You know what we're missing here too, Michael?
What's that?
A Ninja Common.
Mm.
So we've found our competitor in the pod, probably about 2 to 3 seats down. That being said, Emissary of Wind,
Yeah.
fantastic pickup.
Yeah.
Anything that says 4 on it, especially unconditional, is
Yeah.
A-okay in his end deck.
Well, and we saw Chris be able to utilize the Go again as well. So this is a very versatile card.
Yeah, 100%. Another lackluster pack. This could be an opportunity to pick up a, kind of a role player blue. Harmony of the Hunt is never a bad card.
It's a 3 block.
It's a
Oh,
2
it's
block.
not.
Yeah.
It looked like a 3 for a moment there.
Filthy liar.
It's the glare.
Yeah, might be pigeonholed into the red Breed Anger once again.
Yeah.
Which honestly, Breed Anger is one of those cards that, like, yeah, it does what you want in Zen, but it can
Yeah.
also be super clunky.
It's good, but it's not like top 3 good.
No.
It's a red attack for 4, but it requires that Tiger, and if you are light on Tiger creation, you can get into a lot of trouble running too many of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're also really light on Transcend cards, if you're light on combo cards, sometimes it's nice just to have the Breed Anger to be able to find something off of the Zen ability.
Yep.
This is an interesting.
No,
pick.
he did that earlier. He
Yeah.
was
He's
faking us out with the evasively blue. First tentative Chi Moon.
Another blue block 3.
Yep. Really valuing those highly.
Quite interesting that Rising Sun, Setting Moon made it back around.
That's a good Transcend card, and he decides to take it this time around.
I think that's super reasonable. I don't think you want to go. I think the fact that he got through an entire draft without taking a Transcend card was more of a fluke than a strategy. He was definitely excited to have made it as far as he did, despite not having a Transcend card. It wasn't part of his game plan, right?
Got it. Yellow Companion of the Claw, not a great pick.
No, that's definitely going to be burning a hole in your sideboard.
Yeah. But you have that space with the 30 card maximum. It gives you some wiggle room to pick up some of these worse cards at the end of the draft and just kind of set them to the side and forget them.
So Fuzzy picks up his first Nimble Strike, which could synergize with his Nimblism. However, I don't think you want to be running those cards because they're both in the blue. We'll see what he chooses to do with them.
Yeah, I don't think you want the blue Nimble Strike nearly as much as the blue Nimblism.
Yeah, sure.
And that rounds it out with a Haze Shelter, a useless card for his deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless he wants to cheat, which could be a viable strategy here. Now with us, Eye in the Sky.
Yeah, we got too many Saurons keeping watch over these people.
So Pack 2 not being the saving grace for Fuzzy that it was for Chris, looking like that ninja pool is definitely drying up a little bit.
Yeah. I see, 2 really strong reds in Emissary of Wind and Untamed, and 2 sort of middle of the road with the double Breed Angers, and then just a lot of blues.
So at this point, we're sitting at 14 blues total and 9 reds.
Yep.
Reds are what the Zen lives and dies on. So Fuzzy will probably have to focus on taking power cards on this next one as best he can, which isn't always up to him.
Yeah. 14 blues is too many to play, in my opinion. Maybe if he starts getting some of those good 3-for-7s, he can get some more value out of his resources, but he really needs to do something about this discrepancy. 9 reds and 14 blues is a tough spot to be in going into Pack 3.
Yeah, and the fact that it kind of dried up, the ninja cards, during Pack 2 could be a telltale sign that all of the ninjas are on Fuzzy's left.
Yeah, which is good for him.
Which
Coming
is good
into
for him.
Pack 3, you want to be the one passing, getting first pick. That will be important.
Right, you are. So I think you said it best. A middle-of-the-road Zen deck so far. Let's see if he can up the power level in Pack 3. Best of luck to Fuzzy. And we were passing left once again. Ooh, do we have a Marvel? Alas, no. Seems like it was a Crouching Tiger.
Yeah. Not the pack one he wants to see here.
We do have a good piece of equipment, and we still have not filled the arm slot.
True.
So that's a very viable pick.
Yeah.
Also, red gravekeeping, just never a bad card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. A 1 for 5, especially in a resource heavy deck. Interesting choice.
But Fuzzy opts for the yellow Chi
Be
Unleashed. This is a card that can do huge work in Zen decks.
2 for 6, yellow block 3. It sort of does it all. And in a resource heavy deck like this one, it may be that he just, sees that as better than a 1 for 5. It's a 2 for 6 and it's yellow.
But like you said, you never want your pack 2 pick 1 to be a yellow card. That's just not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Path Well Traveled, another premium Chi card. However, red tiger formation.
Yeah, he's kind of light on tiger creation, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very important pickup for him, especially considering how many breed angers he has.
Yeah.
Combo card that requires a tiger to be played first.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, in this deck, I think the breed anger is going to more often than not be just a 1 for 4 finisher for the turn rather than actually really living and dying on
Right, you can't even utilize the extra tiger.
Another opportunity for equipment, but Fuzzy's already filled that head slot. So if he takes that card, then he is basically creating a dead card in his sideboard.
How do you feel about this Blessing of Chi? Is that a card that you like?
Aaron Grace at U.S. Nationals actually turned my mind around a little bit on this card. I'm not sure if he was running it because he thought it was good or if it was filler in his deck, but there's a world where you kind of finish off a turn and lay that thing down, and it does work.
Yeah.
That being said, you kind of need room to do it, right? I mean, like we saw in Chris's game, even though his deck was really, really good, he was often down to 1 life. And if you're in that situation, the last thing you want to be doing is throwing down an aura and setting up for next turn.
And look at this. He just got 3 back-to-back Tiger creators.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal for the Breed Anger list that he's got brewing right here. He can get 1 value out of the weapon and then play one of these and Breed Anger and then play one of these and get another value. So that's actually a big deal. He needs that Tiger creation and he's kind of getting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Zen decks kind of need a couple things in order to be able to function. They need the transcend cards, they need combo cards to be able to find, and they also need tiger creators.
Yeah.
Unconditional ones, ideally.
Yes. Yeah. There's the Heirloom of Tiger Hide.
How do you feel about this card?
Well, with an open deck list, that's kind of a...
That's a good point.
Yeah. Not my favorite. They're going to know that he has it if he doesn't pick another chess piece, which he has the option to do. And that's actually something Chris mentioned that he did on purpose. He chose 2 chess pieces because of the open deck list so that they wouldn't know which one he was running.
Yeah, absolutely. Here comes probably a blue Wind Chakra.
Yeah.
I would be pretty surprised if he took anything else at this point. Wind Chakra just being one of the best transcend enablers, and what I mean by that is a blue card that you can play for 0 that allows you to transcend with your Chi cards.
Yeah, it's a 0 for 3 when you pair it with one of those.
And it's one of those, the chakra that's probably the easiest to condition to meet, right? Because you just play it, your transcend card sees it at instant speed, then you get the +3.
Looking at these packs, I'm worried he might be at a 4 ninja table.
You think 4 ninjas?
It's possible.
It's it's looking pretty dry, not gonna lie. So today we've gotten to see when draft goes alarmingly right, and when it goes a little more middle of the road.
Yeah. Of course, there's a whole other portion after this. They have to play the games out to see who the best pilot.
Right, you are. And as we discussed before, sometimes you don't need to be the best deck at the pod. You just need to be the best Zen deck at the pod.
Right.
And it's entirely possible if, like you predicted, there are 4 Zens. This could be the best out of 4 Zen decks, for sure.
Yeah, being in the first seat would, that's a big advantage.
Absolutely. I wonder if he is considering the Water the Seeds. Yeah, he's considering Water the Seeds here, which, again, I think it's just a worse Untamed in reality.
Yeah, it only blocks for 2. And the Untamed, well, the Untamed is a 2 block, but it's a 1 for 5.
Yeah,
In this
exactly.
case, 1 for 4, being a yellow.
Seeing a lot of these kimonos in this pod.
Yeah, he has another option to pick that. I'm really curious if he's going to have the same thought process as Chris. It doesn't look like he's considering it as a way to cover his chess piece up, and he goes for the title surge.
I'm not sure if he has the room. I think Fuzzy he's just getting somewhat blue flooded.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too dramatic about that. He's got 17 blues and 13 reds. Granted, we're on the wheels, so we're going to see a lot more. But what that means for me if I'm in Fuzzy's seat is thinking like, hey, maybe I should pick up some more of these water mystic cards. That'll help me, create something useful out of this blue heavy deck.
He goes for the Nimble Strike. I would have really liked to see the Koi Blast here. I think he's probably not used to playing with open deck lists. It's not something you consider. It's clearly not a good card, and it may even just be the fact that why would you bring that when you could bring the other one? But hiding some of that information is really useful.
Yeah, I also really like Koi Blast Kimono in Zen. If you can get that early Transcend off, it can be just a guaranteed game winner for you.
Yeah.
If you have the control to come down to 1, you can do some nasty things with that card.
Well, it looks like that's it for the third and final pack. Why don't we take a look at this deck list?
We're going to give our production team just 1 second to make sure that they're feeling good.
Of course.
Looks like they are. All right, first and foremost, let's take a look at the reds. Let's take a look at the juice.
15 of them, 3 of which are Breed Anger sitting there at the top, and a Companion of the Claw. It's not bad.
No, it definitely could be worse, but let's compare this to what we already know is a 3-0 Zen deck from the previous pod. Chris had 3 Biting Breezes. He had 2 Flex Claws. In that 4 power slot. And what do we say about Zen? He likes to say 4. We do, however, have one of those 2 emissaries that Chris had. Another 0 for 4 is never a bad thing. But in general, it is kind of looking like our turn cycles are going to be a bit clunkier.
Yeah, and looking here, actually, it looks like 2 of his reds are actually illusionist cards, so we can chop that number down to 13. So less than half of his deck is red. We'll have to see how he pilots it. I mean, he also has some blue cards that can sort of fill in the red slot, so to speak, in the form of Spillover and Tidal Surge. So that can help fill the gap a little bit. Same with Wind Chakra if he's able to pair that. That has the value of 3 when he plays it on offense. So he has some cards to sort of fill that gap. But, I wasn't in here when you were looking at the Chris Iali list. When you were looking at it, can you tell me some of the metrics that made you think, wow, this is powerful?
It was the number of combo cards, namely, I believe he had 4 or 5 Pouncing Cheese. Only one of which was red, but it's still optimal target. His Transcend card was probably best in slot. It was Preserved Tradition. He did have a Drop in the Ocean, which was a little clunkier, but Fuzzy not looking too bad in terms of his Transcend card. This is still one that is pretty premium.
I'm also curious, do you remember how many reds he was running?
Chris?
Yeah.
Chris was running, I believe it was 17.
Okay, so 17 to if it was 19, that's even more impressive. But right now, we've got effectively 13. If we go back to the reds here, you can see, again, that 2 of them are illusionist cards.
Right.
And those aren't going to make the cut. They can't make the cut. So
unless you cheat, of course.
Yeah, 13 reds to what we saw previously, 17 or 19. That's a big difference. That's a lot less threat throughout the deck.
And it's not even about quality. Quantity. It's also about quality. Right? The multitude of Flex Claws and Biting Breezes is really what told the difference between these 2 decks.
He does have quite a few block 3s, 19. Which, well, not counting these illusionist cards once again, or the Tiger Hide, as much as it is a block 3, we don't get to put that in our deck. But I did notice that he was prioritizing the block 3s, and that could be something that he's able to utilize for higher value. We'll have to see how he plays it out, and also, again, how the rest of the table drafted. Just because this deck wasn't necessarily that good compared to Chris's does not mean that his opponent's decks were good. So that's a very, very important thing when it comes to draft, is not only how good is your deck, but how good are your opponent's decks and what are you facing?
Right, you are. And it might just be that Fuzzy has to play a more grindy game as a result. We've talked about what is good in Fuzzy's deck and a little bit about what is bad, but let's focus on what is really bad. Namely, like we said during Chris's pod, that manifests itself in the yellow and blue slot. Chris had all of his yellows were either pouncing cheese or cards that aren't going to go in his deck anyway, like illusionist cards. In this case, Fuzzy is definitely going to have to play that Chi Unleashed, the Companion of the Claw, and probably the Untamed as well, just because of the number of cards that weren't playable on the wheels.
Yeah, I don't mind the Untamed so much, but it's this Companion of the Claw. 2 cost, 2 block, 3 power. Nothing about this is more than 2.
Yeah.
You know, you pitch a card and play this, that's a 2 card 3. You block with it, that's a 2 block. You pitch it, it's 2. There's nothing, you can't use this effectively in any axis.
Right, you are. He does have one good yellow going for him in the name of Battlefront Bastion, which will likely be committed to defense more often than not, but that's okay with this card. Let's take a look at Fuzzy's equipment suite. We don't have any doubled up slots, which is good or bad, depending on how much of a mind game you want to play.
True.
Like Chris.
Yeah, the chess piece with the open deck list, it's a very niche situation. Normally the deck lists aren't open, but because we're broadcasting this, it's only fair so that the players can't get an unfair advantage by watching the stream. So we have the open deck lists, and that means the cloaked equipment is not as cloaked as you might want it to be.
Well said. We do have a best in slot feet piece, shoes rather. That being said, the chess piece and the hat are less stellar. We're talking a lot of smack about Heirloom of Tiger Hide, and the reason for that is just because, like, in contrast to the Koi Bless Kimono, Koi Bless Kimono allows you to take a commanding position from going to 1 life. Heirloom of Tiger Hide, however, is a defensive card. And if you are committing to going down to 1 life, you would much rather be doing something on your turn offensively than sitting back and waiting for the opportunity to use that.
Yeah, taking the tempo is such an important thing to do once you drop down to 1. We saw Chris do that beautifully in a couple of his games where he was able to just keep all the cards in his hand and use the power of saying no blocks to then count it. This card does not help you with that game plan. It just kind of shows up and says, I can block some more, which doesn't really help with the tempo plan as much.
Right, you are. Let's take another look at these ninja cards.
Yeah.
Looking specifically for combo targets, because we now know that Fuzzy does have a Transcend card in his deck, right? So his game plan is at least somewhat going to revolve around grabbing your Breed Angers, your Pouncing Cheese.
Yeah, the Pouncing Chi is, probably the best option, assuming he's got that Tiger in hand. It's the 0 for 4 versus the Breed Anger, which is the 1 for 4 if you've played a Tiger. It does create another one, and maybe if he has the ability to gain value off of multiple Tigers per turn, which the Kakara can get you there for 1, and you can get a couple others with the Tiger form incantation. There it is. So, this gives you the ability to get value out of 2 Tigers in a turn if you sequence it properly, which I'm assuming he'll be able to figure out how to do. So that is, it's a good thing he was able to pick this up. Even Companion of the Claw, with a blue heavy deck, I don't hate this card as much. And with a deck that has so many Breed Angers, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's useful to be able to have the Tiger in hand to get the combo started.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the majority of the time when we see the Zen activation, it's probably going to be Pouncing Chi unless it's been played or blocked with, because he doesn't, like Chris did, have the opportunity to play Preserve Tradition to put it at the bottom of your deck, Transcend, find it again.
Yeah.
So I think Breed Anger, by and large, is probably going to be a backup Zen hero power target. It's also just not bad as a chain ender. If you have that 1 extra resource floating, you can make good use out of it with another 4, because we like to say 4.
I'm a little bit curious how many 2 costs he has. I wonder if I can do any kind of thing to pull that up. If not, we might just scroll through. The reason I'm asking that question is because the weapon costs 2, and he has so many blues, it's likely that he may have 2 blues in each hand, which would allow him to do something along the lines of Companion of the Claw, weapon, fact-finding mission, right? Companion of the Claw, weapon, Chi Unleashed. So these 2 cost cards are actually starting to, due to this curve, become a little bit higher value than your typical Zen list, and there may be a way for him to string things together and still get the value that he wants out of those blues. You know, just normally the Zens don't have the blues to support a 6 resource heavy turn, so we don't really think of these cards as useful, but there is a type of line that can use 6 resources, and maybe that's what he was thinking when he was drafting these cards.
Right, you are. And the only problem with that strategy is, of course, if you have to commit any cards to defense. Because it's like, yeah, sure, I now can make a solid turn out of 2 blue pitches.
Yeah, it's a 4-card hand.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
cannot afford to give away any of those cards. You lose so much value. And I think that that's sort of the reason that we don't like to see that, is it's a one-dimensional strategy, and if you do see yourself staring down something that can interrupt you or that you must block for some reason or another, it hurts your offensive potential so much to have to give one of those up.
Right, you are. So we will perhaps see a much less hybrid game plan than we saw from Chris, where every now and then you can throw one of those cards in front of your opponent's attack. Instead, Fuzzy might have to keep full grips or donate 2 cards to the block in order to play this or pilot this deck more efficiently.
Speaking of efficiency, go again wide chains that cost 0 is one way to do that. He does have a few options, not a lot of 0 cost, but certainly a lot of go again. 26 of the potentially 30 cards, well, the 30 cards that he's running could potentially have go again. And we can see here that at least on page 1, they look pretty good, but a lot of these go again cards are in the blue slot, which is fine.
And is also where Fuzzy's really going to have to trim the fat.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're looking at a pool of 42 cards. 3 of those are equipment that are definitely going in. That leaves 39. 39. He's got to cut 9 of those cards, and he's sitting on 19 blues. And like we said, 13 reds, 2 of which automatically make the cut because they're illusionists.
Yep.
So there's not. This is the moment where we have to kind of analyze his sideboard's lucidity and ability to change. And there's not much here, right? So if he faces a new, for example, he's going to have to leave some really powerful blue attacks in there for him to snipe.
Let's take a look at his blues to see what sorts of ammunition the news might have. Nimble Strike and Nimbleism are both very good for new. Breed Anger, if they're able to make the Tiger, is quite powerful. Harmony the Hunt is something that can make the Tiger. So you can see that these actually would combo together quite well for a new. The first tentative cheese are also quite powerful. They have go again. So there's a lot of gas potentially for a new to use against the Zen, and not a lot of options to cut. Frankly, even the Spillover is a insanely good card for new to see in that banish zone. A 0 for 6. Very, very strong for new to use against the Zen. So
I want to take a minute to note that we've just gotten deck lists, and it sure looks like we are sitting on a 3-3-2 split, but believe it or not, the 2 is in favor of Enigma.
That checks out. I think when we saw the cards there, I was noticing a lot of powerful illusionist cards coming through. 3-3-2, glad to hear that. 4 would have been pretty brutal, but the 3 slot on Ninja seems to have been kind of like a weak 3, just kind of based on what we saw here. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. Definitely don't call it until the players have played their games. There's a ton of, skill expression once they sit down and start playing the games.
Right, you are. And I think it's no surprise Zachary Wallach is one of those enigmas. The other one is Clark Moore. Looks like we've got Franchi Tan. Oh, excuse me, that's on verification. Chris Iali is on Zen again this time. So we'll see if he was able to pull together another 3-0 Zen deck. Andrew Rudin who was passing to Fuzzy for 2 of the 3 packs, is
Okay.
also on Zen, which means that Fuzzy
Okay,
was
so
indeed getting cut off.
at least the second ninja.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right you are. Sounds like Fuzzy is going to be taking on French Tan
Okay.
in the first round, and French. I'm so sorry for the pronunciation error. It's France Tan, not French Tan. He is the present tense of being French, not the past tense. So here is his list. He's going to be one of our 3 news, which, as we saw in the last pod, you typically don't want to be a 1 of 3 new, although Evan Bridges did make it look
you know,
pretty
it
okay,
really does depend on the card quality. So we'll have to see how things play out when the players get rolling.
Right, you are. I think we'll go to a short break before we get into our next match.
Sounds great.
Don't go anywhere. More Flesh and Blood after this.